Yeah, so by the 90s, the video games were, back on top. People, knew what video games were, and it wasn't a fad anymore. People were buying games and game systems.
In the NES and Super Nintendo eras, it was still kind of perceived as sort of a kiddie thing.
At the time, there was the Nintendo, and then there was the Genesis in the early 90s, and you pretty much had to pick and choose. Luckily, both systems had great games, so you really couldn't go wrong with either of them.
In the 90s, I just remember gaming just being extreme. Like, everything was extreme, and gaming just jumped right on top of that.
What if it snowed in San Francisco?
And then when we started moving further into it, PlayStation came out.
I think first the Sega Genesis and then the PlayStation helped to mature the market, helped to mature the demographic, the gamer demographic, and also kind of make gaming seem cooler in the eyes of the public.
And I played this like MX game or something, a BMX game, and it was like hardcore music and filters and people doing cool tricks on their BMX bikes, and I was like, this is what the 90s is about. It's about being extreme and being on a BMX bike and being in a half pipe or something.
But stuff like EA Sports and Final Fantasy VII and some of Sony's more mature marketing that they were doing for the PlayStation, I think it changed a lot of people's perception for how cool gaming was.
Back then it wasn't really like, oh, I'm a gamer, I'm a this or I'm that. It's like you played some games, whatever, but then you hung out with your friends and you drank and you chased girls and all that stuff. But it wasn't something like you didn't identify yourself as like, I am this thing. It was just kind of like a hobby that you did, just like, you had a hobby of, stalking girls who went to gym class.
Probably the most significant game of the 90s for me, and maybe of my entire life as a gamer, was Mario 64. The first time I played that, I think my mind just totally exploded, taking gaming into 3D for me.
For me, it would be Bonk's Adventure for the TurboGrafx. It was everyone had their Sonic or their Marios, but for me it was Bonk.
The best thing about the 90s for me was Street Fighter 2 and hustling kids for quarters.
I'd always been kind of into RPGs and playing Final Fantasy and stuff when I was a little kid, but really Chrono Trigger was the one that made me a massive RPG fan. I think I played every RPG that came out from then on for like 10 years. I was obsessed with RPGs.
Coming out of the 90s and going into the aughts, PlayStation was really asserting itself as the dominant brand. And after the Dreamcast came out, we were all sort of waiting for PlayStation 2.